Family is supposed to protect you, not bury you alive. The night I overheard my daughter and her husband whisper that they were sending me away and selling everything I owned, something inside me broke. They thought I was asleep. They thought I was weak. They thought I had nowhere to go. They did not know I was listening. So I escaped into the cold night, alone, barefoot, and terrified. And 1 week later, they faced someone they never expected. This is the story of how I survived my own family. And how I fought back. People assume that growing old means becoming weak. They assume your voice fades, your strength collapses, and your story ends quietly in a soft bed with someone patting your hand and telling you to rest. But endings are not always peaceful. And silence is not always acceptance. I learned that truth the night I escaped my daughter's house. For months, I had been living in Rebecca and Michael's home after recovering from hip surgery. At first, I was grateful. I believed I was safe there. I thought staying with family meant comfort and care, not control and fear. But slowly, the warmth of their kindness began to dim, and small cracks began appearing in the walls of our conversations. Cracks that widened into something much darker. It started subtly. Rebecca taking over my mail before I saw it. Michael insisting that he handle my bank cards just to make life easier. My phone mysteriously resetting itself. Visitors being blocked with excuses like "Mom is too tired today." My voice stopped mattering in my own life. Then came the locked doors. The medication I never asked for. The constant checking if I was sleeping. At 74, I had survived losing my husband, burying 2 siblings, and fighting cancer. I was not fragile. But in that house, I felt smaller every day. Like I was shrinking into a shadow of myself. One night, everything changed. I had gone to bed early after a long day of pretending not to notice things disappearing from my room, jewelry my husband gave me on our 40th anniversary, the silver watch I planned to give to my granddaughter Chloe someday, even the antique locket with my parents' photo inside. I knew better than to accuse anyone. Bravely questioning anything only ended in guilt or silence. Around midnight, I woke abruptly. The hallway lights glowed under my door, and distant voices drifted through the house. I sat up slowly, listening. At first, all I heard was hushed tones. Then I recognized Michael's voice, sharp and cold. "Tomorrow morning we move her. Paperwork is ready. After that, we sell everything she owns." My heart stopped. Rebecca whispered next, her voice trembling, but not with guilt. With excitement. "Finally. We will be free. She will not fight it. She has nowhere to go." I froze. The room spun. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to steady my breath while my whole reality shattered. They were going to put me in a facility. They were going to take everything I worked for, everything I saved, everything I still had left of my life. I heard their footsteps coming closer. I lay back quickly, closed my eyes, and slowed my breathing, pretending to sleep. Michael leaned into the doorway. I could feel him watching me. Studying me. Waiting for movement. I stayed completely still. "She will not last long," he said softly. "They never do. Old people are so easy to handle." They left the room laughing under their breath. At that moment, something inside me caught fire. A strength I had not felt in years returned, fierce and burning. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was already gone. They forgot who I am. I slid out of bed silently, my hands trembling but determined. I dressed quickly, pulling on the warmest sweater I owned. I grabbed my small savings envelope from the drawer, the one they somehow missed. I took my purse, my folded documents, and the photograph of Chloe smiling in the summer sun. I looked around the room one last time. A room that was not mine. A house that was no longer home. A place where love had become a prison. Then I opened the window. The night air struck my face like a slap, cold and sharp, but it woke every nerve in my body. I climbed out slowly, lowering myself carefully onto the porch roof, then down onto the wet grass below. My hip ached fiercely, but pain is nothing compared to fear. I did not look back. I ran barefoot across the lawn into the darkness, with only the moon and my heartbeat guiding me. Every step felt like a lifetime escaping. I did not know where I was going. I only knew I needed to get as far away from that house as possible before sunrise. The moment I reached the street, I whispered into the night, "I am not done yet." And I kept walking until the lights of the house disappeared behind me forever. For the first time in months, I felt alive. Not safe yet. Not free yet. But alive. I had survived the first battle. The war was just beginning. I walked through the night until my legs felt like they were made of stone. My breath was ragged, each inhale sharp from the cold air. I had no plan, no destination, no idea what would happen next. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Going back was not an option. The town was silent at that hour. Streetlights flickered, empty sidewalks stretched endlessly, and I could hear my heartbeat echo in my ears. At last, I saw a dimly lit building at the corner of Maple Street, a small roadside motel. A glowing red sign buzzed weakly above it. Vacancy. I stepped inside the office, my sweater soaked with night dew, my feet numb. The man behind the counter looked up in surprise. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. "Do you need a room?" "Yes," I managed, forcing my voice not to shake. "Just for one night." I handed him cash from the envelope I had taken with me. He didn't ask questions. He slid a key across the counter and nodded toward the staircase. "Room 12. Second floor. If you need anything, just ring the bell." I thanked him and climbed the stairs slowly, gripping the railing with both hands. When I entered the room, I locked the door and leaned back against it, closing my eyes. For the first time since I heard their whispered plan, I allowed myself to cry. Silent tears at first, then uncontrollable sobs shaking through my entire body. I cried for the mother who raised Rebecca with love and impossibly long nights of sacrifice. I cried for the woman who believed that family meant safety. I cried for the foolish trust that blinded me for years. When the tears finally stopped, I stood before the small mirror above the sink. My reflection stared back, hair wild, face streaked with tears, but eyes burning like steel. No more tears. I sat at the small desk, pulled my purse close, and opened the envelope I had grabbed from my drawer before escaping. It contained my most important documents. Or so I believed. But something felt wrong. I unfolded the papers slowly. My bank statements showed withdrawals I did not recognize. My signature appeared on documents I had never seen before. A small stack of forms sat in the back of the envelope, stamped with legal language I could barely process. One page stood out sharply. Power of attorney. Effective immediately, financial and medical control transferred to Rebecca Hart. My hand shook as I read the forged signature. Perfectly executed. So perfect it looked real. Below it, another document. Application for relocation to Willow Creek Long-Term Care Facility. My name printed at the top. My daughter listed as decision authority. Move date, tomorrow. I pressed both hands to my chest, fighting the rising panic. They planned everything. Not just some money. Not just control. They planned to erase me completely. To lock me away where nobody could hear me. My pulse thundered in my ears. I closed the documents carefully and put them back into the envelope. Then I reached for the motel phone and dialed the only number I could think of, the bank where I had been a client for almost 30 years. After long rings, a tired male voice answered. "Riverside Financial, emergency line, this is Samuel Reed." "Samuel," I whispered, "this is Evelyn Hart. I need urgent help." He paused, voice becoming alert. "Mrs. Hart? Are you safe? We received unusual authorization documents earlier today requesting full account transfer." I gripped the phone harder. "Samuel, that was not me. Someone forged my signature. Freeze every account immediately." "Done," he said without hesitation. Where are you? Do you need protection? No protection yet. I need information first. And an attorney. There was a brief silence. I know someone, he said. A lawyer who handles elder financial abuse cases. Her name is Nina Lawson. I am sending her number to your phone right now. Thank you, I whispered. Mrs. Hart, he said softly, you are not alone. Whatever is happening, we will help you. I hung up the phone and stared at the wall in silence. A spark of hope flickered inside me. For the first time since the night began, I felt strength returning. I dialed the number Samuel sent and held my breath. A woman answered on the second ring. Nina Lawson speaking. Ms. Lawson, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, my name is Evelyn Hart. I think my daughter and her husband are trying to take everything from me. And I need help. Her voice changed instantly. Where are you right now? A motel on Maple Street. Do not go back to their house, she said firmly. Do not speak to them. Do not sign anything. I will meet you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We will take this to court. And we will win. I closed my eyes. Relief washed over me like warm sunlight. Thank you, I whispered, tears returning but softer this time. Mrs. Hart, she said, her voice strong and calm, you did the hardest part tonight. You got away. Now let me help you fight. When I hung up the phone, a quiet stillness filled the room. I was no longer running blindly. I was preparing for war. The sun began to rise slowly outside the thin curtains. I watched the first streaks of morning light cut through the darkness. A new day. A day I would take my life back. I whispered to myself. You survived. Now you fight. And for the first time in years, I felt something powerful deep in my chest. Strength. The battle had just begun. Morning sunlight filled the motel room, soft and pale through the thin curtains. It should have felt peaceful, but inside my chest, my heart beat like a drum preparing for battle. I sat at the small wooden table sipping weak coffee from a paper cup, waiting for Nina to arrive. Every sound outside made me flinch. Every car engine made me afraid they had found me. At exactly 9 o'clock, there was a gentle knock on the door. I opened it carefully, and a tall woman with sharp eyes and confident posture stepped inside. Her dark blazer, neatly tied hair, and clear steady voice told me everything I needed to know. Nina Lawson did not lose battles. Mrs. Hart, she asked softly. Yes, I said, closing the door behind her. She sat across from me, opened a folder, and placed her hand gently on mine. You are safe now. I have already contacted the bank. I reviewed the documents Samuel sent. The signatures were definitely forged. There are recorded timestamps showing you were in the hospital the day those papers were signed. That alone proves fraud. My breath trembled slightly with relief. What about the relocation form? Nina nodded slowly. That is the most concerning piece. They tried to transfer you to a long-term care facility without your consent. That is criminal. And now that your accounts are frozen, they will panic. As if her words summoned it, my phone vibrated violently on the table. Rebecca's name flashed across the screen. I stared at it without speaking. The phone rang again and again, desperate, insistent, demanding. Do not answer, Nina said calmly. Let them sweat. A moment later, a voicemail notification appeared, followed immediately by another call. This time from Michael. I silenced the phone and placed it face down. They think I am helpless, I whispered. They think I will crawl back. Nina gave a thin smile. Good. Let them believe that. People reveal the most when they think they have already won. Her words sparked something fierce inside me. Something steady. Something powerful. Today, she continued, we file an emergency protection order. That will block them from touching your finances or making any decisions about you. We will also request that the court restrict contact. First hearing is tomorrow morning. My hands trembled slightly. Tomorrow? Yes. But expect confrontation before then. People who do this rarely go down quietly. As if the universe waited for that line, another knock sounded at the door. Loud. Aggressive. The air froze. Nina stood immediately, motioning for me to stay silent. She looked through the peephole, then exhaled quietly. It is Rebecca. My throat tightened. Do you want me to send her away? Nina asked. I shook my head slowly. No. I need to hear what she has to say. Nina stepped aside. I opened the door. Rebecca stood there, face flushed, hair wild as if she had been crying or yelling. She rushed in without waiting for permission. Mom. Thank God you are alive. We were terrified, she said, voice shaking. You disappeared in the middle of the night. You could have fallen. Something could have happened. Her performance belonged on a stage. Tears clung to her lashes, perfectly timed. Her hands reached to touch my arms. I stepped back. Stop, I said quietly. Her face shifted instantly, like a mask falling off. So this is how it is, she hissed. After everything Michael and I have done for you, you run away and humiliate us? I stared at her, seeing clearly for the first time. Every fake concern. Every lie. Every manipulation. You were going to move me into a facility tomorrow morning, I said softly. And you were going to sell everything I own. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? Who told you that? You are confused. You must have misunderstood. Nina stepped forward. We have evidence. Signatures. Transfers. Bank recordings. And a relocation order scheduled for tomorrow morning. You do not need to lie anymore. Rebecca turned on Nina like a wolf cornered. Who are you? You have no right to interfere with our family. My mother is mentally fragile. She does not know what she is saying. She needs care. My chest tightened, anger rising like fire. Fragile? I whispered. Is that the word you used when you forged my signature? Her face froze. At that moment, a small voice came from behind the door. Grandma? I looked up sharply. Chloe stood outside, eyes red, tears streaming. She must have followed her mother. I opened the door wider, and she rushed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I am so sorry, she cried. I did not know what they were doing. I heard them talking last week. Mom said once you were in the home, they would sell your house and use the money to pay for their new business. I tried to stop them. I tried to hide the papers. Mom got so angry she slapped me. My heart shattered, holding her tightly. Rebecca shouted, voice cracking. Chloe. Stop lying. But Chloe only cried harder. She is not lying, I said quietly. You hurt all of us. Rebecca's face twisted, rage turning her features dark. You think you have one because you hired a lawyer? You think anyone will believe you over me? You are old. You are weak. You cannot prove anything. Nina looked at her with calm precision. You are mistaken. Everything has already been filed. You will receive a legal notice within the hour. Do not contact Mrs. Hart again. Rebecca's hands balled into fists. This is not over, she spat. I straightened my back, my voice steady and low. You are right. It is just beginning. Rebecca stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Silence filled the room. Chloe took my hands and began to sob again. Grandma, please do not leave me. I love you. I stroked her hair gently. I am not leaving you, sweetheart. I am saving us. Nina closed her folder. Tomorrow, we end this. I nodded slowly, strength burning through every cell in my body. I am ready. And for the first time in months, I felt unbreakable. The courthouse was colder than I expected. Not in temperature, but in the way the walls echoed with footsteps and whispered conversations. It felt like stepping into a battlefield where words were weapons sharper than steel. I sat between Nina and Chloe, hands clasped tightly in my lap, trying to control my breathing. I had spent the entire night awake. Not crying. Not afraid. Just thinking. Thinking about the life I built. The life they tried to take. And the woman I refused to become, silent. Across the room, Rebecca and Michael walked in, dressed in polished outfits and manufactured grief on their faces. They whispered urgently to their attorney, glancing at me as if I were something they stepped on. Michael put an arm around Rebecca with a rehearsed look of sympathy. It chilled my blood. The judge entered and the room fell silent. The case was introduced formally. Document forgery. Financial exploitation. Medical coercion. Attempted guardianship fraud. Attempted illegal placement into long-term institutional care. Hearing the charges spoken aloud felt like air returning to my lungs. Nina stood first. Your Honor, we have evidence proving extensive manipulation and financial abuse committed by the defendants against Mrs. Evelyn Hart, including forged signatures, unauthorized withdrawals, and plans to forcibly remove her freedom. She played the audio Samuel had recorded of Rebecca requesting validation for forged papers. She showed the time-stamped hospital record proving I could not possibly have signed them. She displayed bank footage of Michael presenting false identification. Then she stepped aside and nodded gently to me. I stood slowly, gripping the podium for support. Your Honor, I began, voice shaking only slightly, I gave my daughter everything. I worked 2 jobs to send her to college. I raised her alone after my husband died. I believed that if I loved her enough, she would love me back. I paused, letting the silence fill the room. But somewhere along the way, I became useful instead of loved. Convenience instead of family. And when I could no longer serve their plans, they decided to dispose of me. Rebecca jumped up suddenly. That is not true. She is old and confused. She imagined everything. We were only trying to help. The judge's gavel struck loudly. Sit down or I will hold you in contempt. Rebecca sank back, shaking with frustration. I continued. I heard them planning to move me to a facility and sell everything I spent my life building. I heard my own daughter say she could not wait to be free of me. They expected me to disappear quietly. They thought age meant weakness. But I am not weak. I am alive. And I will not allow anyone to erase me. I turned slowly to face Rebecca, meeting her eyes. Family is not something you inherit. It is something you deserve. Silence rippled through the room. Even the judge looked moved. Nina stepped forward again. And now, Your Honor, Chloe Hart wishes to speak. Chloe stood, trembling but brave. The judge gave permission and she approached the stand. My mother told me to lie, she said, voice cracking. She said Grandma was losing her mind. But she is not. She is the only honest person left in our house. I heard them talking about taking her money. I heard them say she would not last long once they put her away. They were laughing. Tears streamed down her face. I love my grandmother. She is the only one who has ever protected me. I want to live with her. The courtroom gasped. Rebecca's attorney panicked, scrambling for papers. But it was too late. The judge leaned forward, expression sharp. Based on the evidence presented, this court rules in favor of Mrs. Hart. Effective immediately, Rebecca and Michael Hart are prohibited from accessing any financial or legal accounts belonging to Evelyn Hart. Furthermore, they are placed under investigation for fraud and elder abuse, and temporary custody of Chloe Hart is granted to Mrs. Hart pending additional evaluation. The gavel struck. The sound echoed like thunder. Rebecca screamed, lunging toward me before officers grabbed her arms. This is your fault. You ruined everything. You think you won? You are nothing without us. I looked straight into her eyes, calm and steady. You ruined yourself. Michael cursed and kicked a chair as he was handcuffed. They were dragged out screaming while the courtroom watched in stunned silence. When the doors closed behind them, I felt my body go weak with relief. Chloe ran into my arms. I held her tightly, heart pounding in victory. Nina exhaled slowly, smiling. You fought harder than anyone I have ever represented. I looked at her, tears blurring the world into soft light. I survived. Yes, she said gently. You did more than survive. You won. We walked outside into sunlight brighter than any I had seen in years. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Not controlled. Not silenced. Not owned. Free. Chloe stood beside me, her small hand slipping into mine. What happens now? She asked softly. I looked out across the courthouse steps, breathing in deeply. Now, I said, smiling, we rebuild. Together. She leaned her head against my arm. And after that? I looked at the sky, feeling warmth spread through my chest. After that, I whispered, we help others who are still trapped. Because this story was not just mine anymore. It was a beginning. A beginning that no one could steal. If you have ever been betrayed by the people you trusted most, remember this. Age does not make you weak. Pain does not make you silent. Sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones everyone counted out. Do not let anyone erase you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to TwistRoom for more emotional real stories with shocking twists and powerful endings. And always remember. The truth always wins in the end.